Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the show. So today I am talking about transformation versus information. You know, we're in the information age, and there's so much available out there, and I've taken advantage of a lot of it, honestly, over the years, which is good. You know, there's a time and a place for everything. And like when I woke up spiritually, I was working, when my initial spiritual awakenings happened, I was working with a person. I was in recovery, so I was working with a sponsor at the time. But I had somebody there talking specifically to me. I was also going through the 12 steps in a group atmosphere. Most of the time it was a group atmosphere. So I had, that was beneficial, but really a lot of it was the one-on-one stuff. I had somebody that I could talk to about each situation that was coming up in my life as it came up. And that was really beneficial for me because I was going from one way of thinking into a completely different way of thinking, one way of interacting with life into a completely different way of interacting with life. So I needed regular input, and I needed somebody to, like when a situation arose, I needed to be able to bring that situation to somebody and have that, and, either me explain how I was looking at it, or a lot of times that didn't really matter because I was trying to get away from the way I was looking at things. Right. So a lot of times it was explained to me, well, you should handle it like this because of this, 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 and this. And it's like, oh, okay. And sometimes I agreed with it. Sometimes I didn't. But I always followed through, and I always did it because I had made the commitment to change. So, like it was phrased to me something, like, try it my way for 3 months. If it doesn't work, I'll gladly refund your misery. I was like, yeah, okay, I don't really like my life. Why am I clinging so tightly to the way that I do things? I don't like my life. So maybe I should open up to another way of doing things. So it was helpful to have somebody directing my thinking, and then, I was learning things, and I moved from Florida up to Rhode Island. So there was lots of change, starting a new job, all that stuff. And then I dropped into devouring information. It was just taking in books and audio and video with all these spiritual teachers and going, oh my God, they're speaking my language. And oh my God, I need to learn their language because they're talking my topics. And just taking in information, hearing it in different ways and absorbing it and trying to implement it to the best of my ability, and matching it with the things that I had already woken up to get deeper understandings. And that was really helpful. After that, I started working with a life coach. Right. So like, as you can see, I'm oscillating between different things dependent on different stages that I'm in. So when I was in the beginning, I needed to learn a new way of thinking. So having individual help on that was really helpful. Then I went into a stage where I needed to take in information, and I just did. Now, luckily for me, after about 5 years of taking in information, I just couldn't take in information anymore. And I say that's lucky for me because because a lot of people don't hit that wall from what I've seen. Like, I am not a reader. I know, it's socially unacceptable. But I'm just not a reader. I'm just not. I don't like taking in information that way. I've had my moments where I've enjoyed reading, but not much. And most of the time that I liked reading by far was during that 5 or 6 year, whatever it was, period of time where I needed to take in that knowledge. And then it just shut off. Like I couldn't, it was like I had to focus on my reading because my ADHD was still there, even during those 5 years, but I could do it. After that, like I just, even to this day, now this is, I don't even know, 15 years later or something. I still have a hard time reading because when that information door got shut, not that I stopped taking in information, but just the way I was taking it in, just, I was almost addicted to information. I was just like devouring it, bring it in, bring it in, bring it in, bring it in. I couldn't get enough. But then once that door shut, then I was like, okay, like I needed to really implement on a higher level what I had taken in. I had to find, that was when I started leaning into life coaching, because, in developing my own style and how I was going to do it based on my personality. And it's, like I said, thank God that stopped, because it doesn't stop for a lot of people. A lot of people enjoy reading and listening to podcasts. And, I always have a steady diet of spiritual food coming in. May it be a daily reading book I have coming in. Conversations are a huge part of it. But, sometimes I'll watch movies, series, documentaries. That's more my jam. But even that, I don't do a ton of it. I'm not constantly inundating myself with it. I mean, I work in this, so like my conversations when I'm working, I get something out of too. It helps keep me focused and spiritual oriented and stuff. So, but like I stopped taking in information, and it was really beneficial because then I was kind of forced to depend on myself instead of just turning to an outlet to make me feel better. That was one reason. And the other reason was because, like I said, I needed to develop my own style. I needed to find out what worked for me so that I could, and then I needed to get off my butt and start my business. Like, and when we're just taking in information and taking in information and taking in information, there's a time and a place for that. Okay. It's good. It's a good thing to do, especially with spirituality. But it's not the end all be all. Like, you're not going to wake up spiritually just by reading and taking in information. And your implementation is actually minimal compared to when you're not taking in information a lot of times. I'm talking about the average person. There are people who can go through books and take it really, really slow and be really, really structured and not move past the chapter until they've implemented every area of that chapter. Well, hey, if that's you, God bless you. Most of the people aren't like that. Most of the people read the book. They get this sensation of doing something good for themselves because they're taking in healthy information. It adjusts the way they're thinking. They are getting some benefits out of it. I'm not saying, like, our ego wants everything black and white. Nothing is black and white. So there's a time and a place for reading. I know I'm not a reader, so maybe it's clearer for me. But whether you're a reader or whether you're not a reader, like, it doesn't matter. There's a time and a place for everything. And what I'm trying to articulate in this podcast is that time and a place for everything. It's not all or nothing. Like of course you can get information, helpful information, and of course you can implement it by reading a book. Yes, of course you can. You can do the same thing by listening to a podcast. Absolutely. And you might be able to do it for a certain period of time, like me, or you might be able to do it forever. And that's all cool. All I'm saying is that we're in the information age. We are inundated with information, and information can make us feel like we're growing when we're not really growing very much. Are we growing? Sure. That's why we feel a little bit better, a little bit better. Yeah, But if you're looking, so I'm going to try to zoom out here to make my point. Because if you zoom in, it's just we're too close to the problem. It's difficult to see. So zoom out, right? And look at your life over a 5-year period, or over a 10-year period, or over a period where you've been on a spiritual path or a self-help path. Look at it in a block of time like that, right? And see how much you've changed. If you've changed consistently by reading and implementing, and you got to be honest with yourself, because your ego is going to tell you yes, and that's not necessarily true. If you are consistently growing and becoming a much better version of yourself by leaps and bounds over a 5-year or a 10-year period because of reading and listening to podcasts, and you're really good at implementing, and you're really good at bringing structure in your life, then keep doing what you're doing. If it's working, that's the best test there is. And we're all individuals, so different things are going to work for different people. But what I'm saying is that I think that there's, I'll try to break it up into percentages just to make my point. Like, there's probably 25% of people that can do what I just described. Constantly taking information, constantly implementing, constantly growing by leaps and bounds, and it's just a wonderful system. And then there's 75% left. Then there's 25% that barely grow at all doing that. They don't like reading. There's no consistency to it. They don't get much out of it. They're not really implementing. So those are the two ends of the spectrum, right? The 25% and the 25%. Now, most people are smack dab in the middle of the gray area in between those two extremes, right? So, of course, like what I'm talking about in this podcast, if you're the 25% that gets a ton out of it and is growing enormously, then don't worry about this podcast. If you're the 25% that doesn't really get anything out of podcasts and reading books, well, then yes, you should be listening to this. If you're the 50% in the middle, that are somewhere in the middle, and yeah, you get some stuff out of it, you grow a little bit, but you don't implement it that well, or it's just like when you look back at a block of 5 years or 10 years, you go, well, of course I've grown. Of course I'm a better person. But am I where I want to be? Am I really growing by leaps and bounds? That's why I used that term earlier. Growing by leaps and bounds. Like, spiritually, we don't have to grow by leaps and bounds all the time. Like, not necessarily every year we're going to grow by leaps and bounds. But we should be growing by leaps and bounds as a general rule fairly regularly. I mean, we really should. It's we're just going back home. The spiritual path, does it go on for our entire lives? Yes, in one way it does. We're probably never done, right? However, our quality of life should be dramatically enhanced in a fairly short period of time. Like, I'm talking, 5 years is the thing that's coming to me. But my life was completely shifted in 3 months. and it took me time to settle into that, maybe like a year and a half. So maybe that's a better time. See, this is how I look at things because, again, people are different. Everybody's unique, right? And we have action takers and we have processors. I'm an action taker. So it's not really a surprise that I took action and blew open in a short period of time. And then I took time to acclimate to that after. So like if you take 3 months for me to blow open, you take another year and a half to acclimate. Let's just round it off to 2 years for the whole process. Okay. Now, a processor will work through things slower and have less, they won't blow open in the beginning. It'll be more gradual over the whole 2-year period, but they'll basically land at the same place after 2 years. So I blew open and then acclimated. A lot of other people can not blow open, but just consistently open. So you're looking at 2 years. You should be looking at life completely differently. Now, I'm not saying that you've solved every problem. I'm not saying that you understand everything. I'm saying that you should have dramatic life changes. You should be dramatically happier. You should be dramatically more peaceful. You should have at least the building blocks to go, for your spiritual existence or path in a couple of years. So if you're looking at a block of time in 5 years and you're not growing by leaps and bounds in there, if you're not really experiencing much peace in your life, not much peace between your ears, not much peace in your heart, you still have regular resentments. You're if it's not dramatically impacted your life, then you're doing something wrong. And one of the things, one of the main things I'm talking about in this podcast is getting addicted to information. Like specifically external information, like books and podcasts and stuff, because we have access to those all the time. So we're just, and then it doesn't work, right? And then we're like, I don't know, I'm doing everything I can. Are you? Are you really doing everything you can? Or are you just taking in information? That's what I really want to talk about this podcast. I want to compare, transformation, like taking the action as opposed to just taking in information. It's a big difference. It's a big difference. And I was reminded of this with a new client that I started working with recently. And, and I hear this fairly regularly, that people have been listening to my podcasts and reading my book and all this stuff for years, right? Because I've been doing it for so many years. But they never worked with me one-on-one, right? So, I don't know, the time's not right. And sometimes it's not. So that's cool. But, and then they finally start working with me and they're like, oh my God, like this is so different. Like I'm getting so much more out of this. It's like, yes, like that, that was one of the main catalysts for this podcast, because I was like, oh yeah, I was like, so I started diving into that because it captured my attention. And I'm like, yeah, there's so much information out there that people just take it in, and we're under this illusion that we're working on ourselves. And what I'm seeing in the spiritual shift globally that's happening, like actually, believe it or not, it's I'm not talking about what's going on in the external world, the dysfunctional world. There's obviously lots of problems in that world. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the people strictly on the spiritual path. I'm seeing more suffering with people on the spiritual path. And the reason that I believe this is happening is because we're not opening up as quickly as we're supposed to be opening up, because we're addicted to information. It's one of the main reasons. And we also a lot of people have gotten into this pseudo spirituality, this identity of being spiritual. Like, like they make sure that that they don't eat meat and they go to yoga class, and there's a drum circle once a month, and they're spiritual. And it's like that's just a different identity than the identity you had before you decided to become spiritual. Like, it's about implementing it, and it's about living it. And it's not about saying specific words or whether you eat meat or not, or whether anything else. It's about developing your personal relationship with your creator and expanding and interacting with life differently on a foundational and transactional level. It changes everything. When when this client had said that to me, I was like, oh my God, that's so true. And I think a lot of people don't realize how big of a difference it is from listening to a podcast and taking in information and trying to take what I say and implement it into your life. I mean, I painstakingly try to explain things in depth and remind you to take what I'm saying and implement it in your life, because I want to help you really, really bad. So I'm doing everything that I can, but there's only so much listening to podcasts can do. And there's only so much reading books can do. It's scratching the surface. So that's why I want to do this podcast, to explain that there, if you're just trudging and just, but your life isn't really changing. This is why I use the term growing by leaps and bounds. We have to grow by leaps and bounds. We change our life, transcend stuff, man. Like, that's transcendence is one of my favorite words. Transcend your problems. Do not learn to carry them in, a lighter bag around with you. Don't, like, it's this surfacey identity spirituality. It's like, are you freaking happy and peaceful, or are you not? Like, really? Really dive in, because I believe we're dragging our feet, and rightfully so. There's no judgment. I'm not saying we're dragging our feet because we're bad or foolish or dumb or anything like that. We're dragging our feet because we don't know where the hell we're going. We are creating an entire new paradigm based in love that this world has never seen. We have never seen. Like, this is amazing, dramatic, huge, and it's hard to wrap our brain around. So of course we're going to drag our feet. Of course we're going to, and we're in the information age, so we take in some information and it feels like we're doing something, so we feel better. So it's like, yeah, but like, this is what I mean. I'm seeing a lot of people on the spiritual path suffer because they're just dancing along the surface. And I know I don't like saying that, because I know the people that are dancing on the surface are going to say, no, not me. I'm not the one that's dancing on the surface. Yes, it's probably you. Like, everybody thinks they get it deep. Everybody thinks they're deep. Not everybody is. So let's stop comparing ourselves to other people. Let's drop the ego for a moment and just be honest with yourself. And really, instead of comparing whether you're deep compared to somebody else or whatever, just all you got to do is go in and ask yourself, am I happy? Am I where I want to be? Am I peaceful and content on a consistent basis? Or am I not? Should I be growing faster? Ask yourself some empowering questions. Ask yourself some truly inquisitive questions. If you're so deep, ask those questions and be still and wait for the answer. Don't listen to the first answer that pops up that sounds like it's the answer you want to hear. Go deep within and ask yourself these questions. And if you're growing and you're peaceful and you're happy and you can interact with life instead of running away. That's another thing that we're doing a lot of. We're running away from society and people. Like, hey, I understand not being inundated with energy vampires or negativity and all that stuff. Of course, we don't want to surround ourselves with that type of stuff. But pushing everybody away to create this isolation and then say like, oh, I'm peaceful and happy. It's like, well, we're supposed to be interacting with other people. We're supposed to have a sense of community. We're not supposed to just push everybody away so nobody touches our triggers and then think we healed our triggers. That's not healing your triggers. All that is just pushing them away so nobody's available to touch them. Right? So, that's another big problem. This is why people are suffering, because this is the type of stuff that's been going on. Addicted to information, setting too many boundaries, pushing people away, isolating, and then and blaming it on everybody else being negative. And like, we're doing all this stuff and it's not the deep, real spiritual work. So we're not happy, not if we're honest with ourselves, not truly peaceful. We're not truly happy. So if that's the case, you need to do something different. We got to take it to this next level. We got to stop dragging our feet a little bit and leap. We need to be leaping into spirituality because it's worth it. It's the end all be all. You'll be glad you did. So because of that, when you're working with somebody one-on-one, like, this is the type of stuff, like, I believe that most of what I teach is pretty deep. But and a lot of people listen to my podcast, read my book and stuff like that. So they get it, right? They listen to me for years. They get it. But then they start working with me. And I'm always seeing things that they're not seeing. Why? Because I'm not them. And it's my job. It's what I do. So I can see things that they can't see. So like it's like Einstein said, you can't fix a problem with the consciousness that created it. It's based on that dynamic. It's very difficult for us to see the things inside of ourselves. This is why I was just talking about it a minute ago. Like, oh, I just, we ask ourselves, am I really going deep in my spirituality? Yes, Glenn, you are. Oh, okay. And then we move on with our lives. It's like, are you serious? That's not going within. That's a surface question with a surface answer that has nothing to do with spirituality, has nothing to do with truth, has nothing to do with the deep reality. It's just, so why'd you even bother asking a question? Because you just waited for your ego to give you a quick little answer that sounded good and you moved on with your life. Like that, you're not going to grow like that. Right? So what working with somebody can do is they can see things that you can't see because your consciousness is used to trying to push that away. Your ego doesn't want you to see it. So like, it's difficult for us to see our own stuff. This is why I've worked with life coaches. Because it's difficult. It can be difficult for me to see my own stuff. Right? So the depth that you get working with somebody is different. The encouragement and the clarity that you can get. Doubt, resistance is a part. It's a part of growth. We're going to have moments of doubt. We are going to have moments of resistance. And when we're left to our own devices, a lot of times, like even if you're good at being honest with yourself, probably half the time, your doubts are going to take over when they shouldn't. So it's going to slow your process down. because you don't have anybody there going, hey, like, no, 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 don't listen to that voice. Listen to this voice. No, you're right. No, you got it. No, you got to do this. Oh, you had a bad week? Don't worry about that bad week. Why? Because of this, this, and this. Oh, do you see now? Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's shift this. Let's get you back going. Like working with somebody, not only does it enhance, but it speeds up the process of growth dramatically. And there's lots of reasons. The consistency of it, the emotional support you get through it. It's more action oriented. The deeper self-awareness, like I was touching on. I just got some notes here. Real-time feedback. It's immediate course correction. This is one of the things that I've been saying for years. Like, it's not that you can't grow on your own spiritually. Of course you can. This is just us remembering our true nature. I'm just saying, like, what could take you 20 years, you can do in 2. It speeds it up dramatically because it's constant course correction. Half the time, we don't even know when we're getting off course. So we're like, we start getting off course and we're just kind of going, and we're just slightly off course, so it's no big deal. But then we keep going and we don't even notice, and then we keep going and we don't notice, and and then all of a sudden, like 5 weeks later, we're miserable and we don't know how we got there. And then we got to figure out where we went off, how to get back on track, what went wrong. Usually we don't know because we're semi-unconscious that whole time we're drifting. That's why we're drifting, because we're half unconscious. So we don't know what we did wrong. Whereas if you're working with somebody, as soon as you start veering, it's right back. As soon as you start veering, it's right back. This is why, like, what I found was, that happened to me too when I was working with somebody in that first 3 months. It was just like, no, this. And I'm like, yeah, but, no, this. Yeah, but, no, this. And it's just bringing us back to where we need to be over and over until it becomes our norm. That's highly effective and highly important, right? So getting that real-time feedback, getting you back on track. Oh, that's what I was going to say. It's very important. What I've found is, like, I've worked with clients on a weekly basis. I've seen the most growth with those people. Why? Because it's every week. It's constant food. It's constant course correction. It's constant reinforcement of the spiritual mindset. So, like, the more you can stay focused and on track, the quicker it's going to become your new norm. The more you drift and then have to come back, drift and then have to come back, then the longer it's going to take you to create a new norm, right? So, like, I found weekly was the best out of what I've tried weekly, bi-weekly, and monthly. And I've noticed a dramatic difference in each one of those 3 options. Very few people can I work with monthly. Very few. It just doesn't work with most people. There's too big of a gap of a time. So, like, generally, the only time I'll ever work with somebody monthly is if they've been an existing client for years and they're really in a good place and everything, like they're basically all set, and it's kind of like maintenance, just making sure they stay on the right track and expanding their because we can always expand into broader spiritual concepts through conversations and stuff like that. So those are fun, like working with somebody once a month, just expanding their consciousness and blowing out these big picture questions and stuff. Like, that's cool, but they got to have a really good foundation. It's not really about changing your life at that point. It's about, you already changed your life. Now it's about maintaining it and expanding mentally, right? Changing your life, it doesn't work monthly. So twice a month, that's the sweet spot. That's where I work with most of my clients. And there's varying success depending on the person. It depends on how much they implement in between sessions. Like I don't, I don't coach one person like, I mean, of course, everybody's an individual, but I don't coach one person well and another person poor. Like, I'm not in control of how quickly they implement this stuff and experience the benefits. So they are by how much they implement in between sessions. And some of it's not their fault. There's varying things that affect that. I don't, some people just like they'll it seems like they're dragging their feet, like they're not really implementing, but they're processors. So it takes them longer to process and process and process. And then all of a sudden they'll take an action and blow open, and they'll get like 6 months or a year worth of spiritual awakenings all at one pop, right? So sometimes it can happen like that. Sometimes it's more gradual. Like I said, it varies person to person. But twice a month is basically the minimum for anybody that's really trying to make a big change in their life. And like I said, once a week, it's even better. So, and these are the reasons why. It's accountability. It's the personalized guidance. Like I said, with the podcast or with the book, like I can explain this stuff, but there's a big difference between you taking my example or my explanation and trying to implement it into your particular situation and then missing a little thing and not knowing you missed it. Like that, quite honestly, is one of the biggest things that I've noticed over the last couple of years, probably, is that the specifics. When I'm working with somebody and explaining how to deal with a specific situation, I'm extremely specific. And generally, what happens if something doesn't work is they miss one of the specifics. So I've made a conscious effort to just hammer this home more and more to people. Like I'll say, like let's say somebody's trying to, they're having a problem with one of their children, and they're trying to, like an adult child, maybe we'll say, just for this one. This is purely hypothetical. I'm trying to make something hypothetical purposely. So, like, let's say you have an adult child and they're struggling with addiction, and they want to move back into your house, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, we got to set some rules up and stuff like this. Like I explain, okay, you have to put something specific down in writing. Make sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. You have to have exactly what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. They have to agree to this before moving in, blah, 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 blah. And I'll go through it all in specifics. And with my clients, I'm always like, email it to me. Let me read through it. I'll kick it back out to you. Getting it right is the most important. It's not getting them to sign something. It has to be right, because addicts and alcoholics and children and a lot of other people are manipulators. So they're looking for a loophole. So when you're coming to agreements with people, whether it be business, children, adults, whatever, it needs to be extremely specific so there are no loopholes in it. Because as soon as there's a loophole, they're going to find it and they're going to exploit it and they're going to manipulate you with it. And it's not going to work. And then you're going to go, I don't know, I tried everything you said and it didn't work. This is why. So I go, let me go over it. I'll read through it and I'll kick it back to you and let you know what, if it's good or if there's some things we need to tweak. Once we get it right, then you present it to them. 3/4 of the time that I explain that, it never happens. I never get an email. They don't go over it with me. They'll do a semi version of it. It won't work. And then we're back to square one. Now you got to present another agreement to them. They're probably already in the house causing problems. So it's a more difficult situation to navigate because you have less leverage. You actually have to be ready to throw them out in the street instead of not letting them move in. They've already manipulated one contract with you, so they're just planning on manipulating the second one because you've shown them to not listen to what you're saying and look for loopholes. And if they do, they'll get what they want. Do you see how it complicates everything? So when I'm working with people, it's like, be very, very specific. And then it works 100% of the time because I set it up that way. Like, I can't count how many times people have come to me and said, Glenn, like, I'm big on boundaries, right? Healthy boundaries, not just boundaries for everyone, but healthy boundaries. I can't count how many times I've talked about how to set boundaries, done podcasts on setting boundaries, talked with people about setting boundaries, and then they go they go attempt to set a boundary with somebody, and they come back to me and they say it didn't work. Okay, well, what did you do? Well, I did this. Oh, okay. So you told them what you wanted. That's a good start. So what are the consequences if they don't follow through? What? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do I mean? Like, I've told you, consequences are a mandatory part of setting a boundary. If you have no consequences, you are not setting a boundary. All you're doing is giving a suggestion, probably to somebody that you've given thousands of suggestions to before, and they've ignored. So why would you think that giving them a suggestion now is going to work? It's never worked in the past, and now you came to them because it's a structured suggestion, you think it's going to work? No. A boundary has to have consequences that you have to follow through with. If they don't hold, that's called holding the boundary. Setting a boundary is a waste of time. You have to hold the boundary. What was that? What was that? The Seinfeld episode? That's what it was. On the Seinfeld episode years ago, he makes a car reservation. He goes to pick up his car, and they didn't have a car there. And he's like, well, you didn't. They're like, no, we took your reservation. He says, well, I don't think you understand what taking a reservation is. Like, anybody can take a reservation. Oh, I took a reservation. Here, I took a taking a reservation really isn't that big of a deal. It's holding it. That's the important part. You have to hold the reservation. Writing down saying Jerry gets a car doesn't really do anything. But if you say Jerry gets a car and then somebody tries to take that car and you say, no, you can't have that car. That's Jerry's car. That's holding the reservation. That's holding the car for Jerry. That actually accomplishes something. Right? Oh, I love it. It's the same thing with boundaries. Please don't do that. And then they do it. Oh, I tried. No, you just gave a suggestion. That's not a boundary. So this is the type of stuff that, like I said, I mean, sometimes even with my clients, things fall through the cracks. I mean, sometimes they follow it very clearly and it goes right through, right? And it works. Of course, works. I mean, it's this stuff isn't theory. If you do it properly, it's going to work every time, all the time, always. Guaranteed. That's how I work. If I tell you to do something and it's going to work 100%, it will work 100% if you do it the way that I say. Guaranteed. I'll put money on it. If you do it the way that I say, specifically. Right? So this is other stuff that you get working with people one-on-one. And it's not just me. Work with whoever you resonate with. That's the biggest thing. It's like, if you resonate with the way that I say things, if they make sense to you, then I'm a good choice for you. If you don't, then I'm not. Like, find somebody that says things in a way that you resonate with. I'm not the only freaking life coach in the world, the only spiritual advisor on the planet. There's plenty of them, and there's plenty of styles, and and I'm very unique. So, like, I don't know any other life coach that works the way that I work. All my work is 100% intuitive, and it's intuitive through me in my particular way. So, people have talked to me about setting up a school to teach life coaching. I'm like, I don't know if I could. How the heck do I teach somebody how to do what just flows through me? I'm not even doing it. I just open up and allow information to flow through. And I don't second guess it. And I'm good at that. I don't know how to teach somebody else to do that. Maybe I could. I don't know. So far, I haven't had an interest in doing so. I love advising. Like I'll advise other life coaches. I've done lots of that, but like to set up a school to teach, I'm not sure I could. But back to the point, it's transformation versus information. So I think I pretty much covered everything I wanted to. If you're taking in information and your life, and you're not growing by leaps and bounds, then do something to grow by leaps and bounds. Like I don't get surprised anymore because it's been so many years. But I used to get surprised that people would follow me for so long without at least just being curious to work with me one-on-one, Like at first I used to be like, really? Like you've been listening to me for a year, 3 years, 5 years? You've devoured every piece of information I've ever put out, and you never thought to shoot me an email to work to at least just explore working with me one-on-one? That used to surprise me. Now I get it. I get it. It's just part of the culture. So half the people that are doing that, it's fine, and they should just continue doing that. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it. And and hopefully they're either not really interested in growing profoundly, or they're structured enough where they can grow profoundly just by listening to some of the things that I'm saying and implementing it somehow. Whatever. God bless. I mean, if it works for you, if what you're doing works for you, keep doing it. That's the best litmus test we have. If it works, keep doing it. If you're happy with what you're getting or how you're living and how you're looking at life, then keep doing what you're doing and you'll get more of it. But if you're not, explore the one-on-one stuff. I mean, heck, I'm even open to working with groups. I have no problem with working with groups. So, I mean, if you know some people and you want to get a group together to help the pricing a little, something like that, message me. I'll work with people. My goal is to help people. I've done this from day one, man. I have helped as many people as I can, and in as many ways as I can with this business. And I plan to continue doing that. It's never been about the money. I mean, trust me, I'm not rolling in it like maybe some of you think. It's always been about helping people to the best of my ability. So if you're interested, but you don't know how, like this is what I always tell people, just try. Reach out to me, shoot me an email, message me, something, like I do that all the time. And sometimes it doesn't work out. But you know what? Most of the times it does. This is, I just was, yesterday, I've been thinking about contacting this person that I wanted. I don't know how to phrase this without getting into it. I wanted to talk to somebody about something in particular. And I don't know, I've been tossing the idea around for a couple of weeks, and it just never seemed to be a right time, to reach out and say, hey, can I talk to you about this? And so yesterday, I had moved it on my schedule a few times. And yesterday I said, you know what? I'm sick of screwing around. Like, I can't talk right now. But what I can do is call and leave a message with this particular person and just bring up the idea. Then when I get a response back, then I can figure out, I'll take step 1 and then figure out steps 2, 3, and 4 later. That's something that I do to stop myself from procrastinating. So like if you're interested in working with me and you go, oh, well, I can't because I can't afford it, or whatever 6 million other excuses that you can come up with, just message me. Maybe we can figure something out. Maybe there's a workaround. Maybe I can recommend something that can help you. I don't know. There's lots of options and variables and stuff like that. But a lot of people will just, they won't even, I know there's lots of people that are interested in working with me and they just won't even ask because they think it's too big of a thing or something, Oh, they listen to me all the time, and that kind of puts distance. It's almost, I know. Well, it sounds weird to me. Maybe it won't to you guys. People who know me, it will sound weird. But like when people first get on the first phone call or Zoom call with me, it's awkward for them if they've been listening to my podcast for a long time. Not because I'm a celebrity per se, but it's just because they've been listening to me in a one-way direction for a long period of time. They're not used to me talking specifically to them and going back and forth. Now, it gets very comfortable in the first session. People get, it's not a big deal. People get over it very quickly. But there's a version of that in a lot of people that are listening. And that's why they don't reach out, because I'm just a voice on Spotify, or, or on iTunes, or on Insight Time, or wherever the heck, the YouTube, or, I'm kind of, there's a space between us, and actually meeting me feels like this big leap that it's not just a person, right? So, yeah. So my point is, think about everything that I said, either working with me or working with somebody else. Think about this stuff. Are you happy where you are? Are you growing in leaps and bounds? If not, try it. Try it, because there is a huge difference. We're just addicted to information. The reason we're like this is because this is how we were taught. Like, this is, society has conditioned us to believe that the work we do on our spiritual path is the same as the work we did in school growing up, for example. So we were trained, as soon as we were old enough to get out of the house without crapping ourselves, we were thrown into school. Maybe even before that. And we're put into school and we're taught that we're going to throw information at you. If you can retain it, remember what we say, and sometimes regurgitate it back to us in a particular way, then you got it. And if you can do that, then you get to graduate and go to the next. You succeeded. So then you go, now you're capable of going to the second grade and the third grade. And so we get conditioned of learning and functioning like that. And we think, so then of course we start the spiritual path and we take in information. And then we go, oh, I understand things better. Okay, cool. I must be growing. I must be expanding. Now I'm ready for stage 2. And spirituality doesn't work like that. It's much deeper. It's not just intellectual, it's conceptual, and it's even physical. We actually have to change our vibrational rate within us. We actually have to change neural pathways in our brain. Like, it's physical. We actually, and conceptual is a big part to get to the physical. So, like, there's a lot more to it than just taking in information. That's cool when you're memorizing your times tables, right? Because that's all it is. It's, you memorize it and then you can pull them up out of your memory whenever you want it. That's cool. That's great. There's a time and a place for that. But on the spiritual path, it's way deeper than that. We are changing how we're interacting with life. We are changing our vibrational rate. We are creating new norms. We are replacing neural pathways. We're dismantling while creating new ones. Like, it's deeper. So you have to go deeper to really get the benefits that you seek, All right, so that's going to do it, peeps. Reach out if I can help. Thank you all for listening and watching. And I will talk with you soon.